soon as I'm here, into reverse gear straight away, because that is my signal. And I can see the car still visible in that left-hand mirror, which means I can monitor it. I don't want to hit it because I can see it. If there's any pedestrians on the pavement, do not keep moving. So I'm going into the road, handbrake is on. I'm not worried about that front now because I started on the left. And there's the curb. When you feel this, I can feel it's about to mount. Do not go back. Hi guys, and welcome back to Clearview Driving. My name is Salmon and I'm a driving instructor, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how to do the parallel park maneuver or the reverse parking maneuver, however you know it. So I'm going to show you how to do this maneuver perfectly if you were asked to demonstrate this in your driving test, but also go over how to do this maneuver realistically between two cars, because that can be quite challenging, especially if you live in the city. So if you guys are new to watching this video, don't forget to like, comment down below, let me know what you enjoyed about this video, and if there's anything in particular you want me to go through, be sure to put it down there. Subscribe if you're new and select that bell icon so that you get a notification every time that I'm uploading. And I just want to say a massive thank you to each and every single one of you guys for all your support, and let's get into this. So first things first, your examiner will get you to park up on the side of the road and say, using the vehicle in front, I'd like you to pull up alongside the vehicle in the road, then reverse back and park within 2 car lengths. And if there's a dipped curb within that 2 car lengths, they'll usually say, treat the driveway as if it was a raised curb. So you want to make sure you stay within that 2 car lengths when you're doing this maneuver. So as with any maneuver, the 2 things that you're being tested on is your control of the vehicle and your observation. This is to do with whether or not you can actually park the car within that criteria and how you're looking around whilst you're reversing. So you don't need to park perfectly, but I'm going to go through the references so that you can park perfectly. So the first thing to do is get alongside the vehicle in the road and stop and select reverse gear straight away. So the reverse gear puts on the reverse lights at the back, so the person behind, if someone turns up, they know exactly what you're doing, and that is your signal. So once you're in that position, the first thing you want to do is you want to start your checks from the right blind spot, right mirror, in front, top mirror, left mirror, and your left blind spot, and lastly, out of the rear window, so you're actually looking out the back as well. And then you're going to start reversing. Now the first reference is actually to get the 2 cars parallel, and for this, we're going to be looking out that window right over there. So once you see the car that you're parking with start to disappear from that window, we're then going to steer towards the left. Now, before you do this turn, you want to make sure you have checked over towards the road again. If the road is different and somebody is approaching, do not move from that position. But if the road's completely clear, you want to start turning, and then as you're going back, the car will start to swing in the road. This is why that right blind spot check is so important, because you don't want to be swinging into the path of an oncoming vehicle or a motorbike. Now, as the car swings into the road, when you're about 45 degrees in the road, you want to turn the wheel back towards the right to straighten up the wheel. Once the car is straight, you want to then head straight back towards the curb, but really slowly, as the camber may affect the speed at which you're going back. So the camber is the slope on the road. This is to help drainage. The middle of the road is usually higher and the sides of the road slope downwards. Now, if the camber is quite steep, you want to make sure to reverse back really slowly so that you don't go too fast near the curb and miss your reference. So the next reference is over in your left-hand mirror, and we're going to make sure the back of the car goes really close to the curb, and we're going to watch for this triangle. So as you're reversing back, this triangle will get smaller, and as it disappears is when you steer towards the right. So what this will do is the front of the car will swing in towards the space, and as you get close to the pavement, you want to then straighten up the wheel as the curb straightens up in your left-hand mirror. All the while, you want to make sure you're keeping your car really slow with your feet and you're looking all around in case someone turns up. Now with each of these references, if you change them up slightly, it will affect the way that you're parking. So with the first reference where you're looking in the left window at the back, if you start too early and you can still see the car as you turn, you're pulling in too close towards the car. Now in your driving test, you're not required to park within a small space. So it's okay if you do that reference slightly later, even if the car's gone out of that window for a few seconds and then you've steered, you're simply going to have more space in front whilst you're parking. Now the angle in the road, everyone always questions, what is 45 degrees? You want to roughly kind of think about 90 degrees and go, yep, that's about right. So think about that sort of angle there. If the angle in the road is slightly too early, it just means you're going to take longer until you reach the curb, which is fine as you've got 2 car lengths in which to park. But if the angle goes beyond 45 degrees, it's actually harder to park the car and you get too close to the curb too quickly. But this is okay if you've got a really small car. Now with the triangle reference, if you turn a bit too early and the triangle is still visible as you're turning, it just means you're going to have more space from the curb. But if you go back and now you can't see the triangle at all and you've carried on reversing and then steered, your back tyre is going to collide with the curb. So even with that reference, if your back tyre ends up touching the curb, that's not an issue, but just make sure you're keeping the car extremely slow as you're reversing. But we're going to get back to that reference later. So the last reference is when you're actually parallel with the curb. If you turn this one too early, it just means the front of your car is going to be further out and the back of your car is angled inwards. But if you take this turn too late, then the front of your car is going to be closer and the back of the car starts to go back out into the road. Okay, so that's enough talking, let's get practicing. I'm going to be showing you guys a few different attempts of how to carry out this maneuver and what happens when you actually change these references. So I'm going to be using this vehicle in front of me to carry out this exercise. I'm looking all around, moving off into the road, going over across towards the right, keeping the clutch quite low. I'm actually putting the clutch right the way back down and looking forward, not at the car, and stop. As soon as I'm here, into reverse gear straight away because that is my signal. Now I'm going to check the right blind spot all around and then looking over at the back. Now I can see the car in that little window that we talked about. I'm going to reverse back like this until the car disappears. And it's just disappeared. Now before this first turn, I'm going to look over to the right. It's all clear and I'm going to move and steer towards the left. So I've done one 360 rotation and I'm having another look because I'm not doing anything. As I'm heading back, I'm going to look for about 45 degrees. I'd say there. Steer towards the right, look right, then look left and focus on my left hand mirror, and I'm going to reverse back a bit more and it's disappeared. I'm going to steer towards the right and keep watching that right mirror and keeping the car really slow. Now I can see the curb starting to come back into view, and as it straightens up, I'm going to straighten up the car and I'm done. Simply secure the car. Now you can see I have parked within 1.5 car lengths or so, but let's see what happens if I change up the references. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that first reference later. Check. So the car is, end is visible. I'm going to keep waiting, looking, and now steering left. And I've got a lot more space to play around with this time round. 45 degrees. There it is. Check the curb, wait for it to disappear, steer right as it disappears, and straighten up as I get to here, turning that reference too early now. So I'm looking in the window, I can see the car's wing mirror, the driver's seat, the back passenger, keep on reversing, I can see their brake lights. I'm going to steer, but I'm going to look, move a little bit and then steer, and I can see the car still visible in that left hand mirror, which means I can monitor it. I don't want to hit it because I can see it, and then good 45 degree angle about there, I'd say there, steer towards that and then looking. I can see that I'm a lot closer to the car, but I know I'm not going to hit it because my references are correct. Looking in that mirror for the reference, doing the turn, checking, and you can see we pulled in a lot closer that time. And then as I get to here, straightening up the car. So I'm waiting for the back reference, get it to where I need it, and it's there. So I'm braking a little, looking right, turning the first one. Let's say I thought this was 45 degrees, so I'm turning earlier. I'm going to straighten up, look around. I can see the triangle, it's quite a big triangle. I'm going to keep reversing. Keep reversing. Keep reversing. There is a car there, but it's far. Keep reversing, and it's there. So I'm now going to steer, looking around, and oh, I'm a bit wide this time, and straighten up. So you can see the effect straight away. In front of me, I've got more space because the angle was slightly smaller that time, so I came back a lot further. Now I'm going to go wider than 45 degrees. Remember, we don't do this unless you've got a really small car, because this will make you come into the space really quite sharp. I'm going into the road. There we go. Looking forward, into reverse, checking right, checking back, reversing until the car is there, and check and steer. Looking for 45, but I'm going beyond. Let's say that's 45. I'm going to go later, 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 later there. I'm going to steer. And the triangle, it's basically gone already. I'm going to hope that I make it and steer. And you can see already I'm really close to that car. So I'm watching it quite carefully. Go really slowly because I think it might even touch the curb this time. And I'm in, and I've straightened up. But that time round I was really cautious of the front of my car hitting into that car because I went so wide with the angle in the road. Now if my first reference was early and then my angle went too late, I would have definitely hit that car. So it's always better off to do the angle slightly earlier, not later. So I'm going into the road. It's harder to come out from this position as well. Going, going, going. Straightening up into reverse, check right, behind, get to my first reference. I put the clutch down a little bit every time when I get to my reference. Look across, steer left. Look for a nice 45 because we don't want to go late. So that's about 45, check. So this time round I am going to turn the triangle earlier. I can still see it visible, but I'm going to steer and see the effect it has. And it's already coming in too close to that car, as well as I can see the curb starting to straighten up already, and I'm not liking that. And now that I straightened up, I'm sticking out in the road completely. So that's too wide, I can't leave the car like this. So this time round, I'm gonna get the back of the car really close to the curb and steer later and see what happens. So checking, reversing, get it near the reference, clutch down, check the right, steer across, look for 45, and that's 45. Checking, going really carefully, but I'm not going to turn. I'm going to keep going back, not turning at all. I'm waiting for that triangle and completely gone, and steer. And there's the curb. When you feel this, I can feel it's about to mount. Do not go back. Change gear, look at the road, and simply steer left. Once I'm back here watching the car, I'm just going to go a little bit further and straighten, and I've parked. Now with that triangle reference, of course you can lower the mirror. If you lower the mirror, it will make it much easier to watch the triangle, but what you can also do is sit really tall, lean towards the center console, and you can see the same bit. But if you don't want to lean across, or you want to simply just lower the mirror, that is completely allowed. Now that the left mirror is lowered, it's much easier to see the curb, but you can't see the pavement. So I'm going to check the road, wait for the first reference, get it there, check, steer left, look for the next reference, about there, steer right, looking back, waiting for it to get close enough. I can still see the triangle, but I'm going to steer because I still want to watch the road as I'm going back. So I'm waiting for it to just become a nice straight line, and there it is. Pavement is straight and straighten up, and I've parked. Of course you do not need to park this close, you can park with a bit more space. So if you simply turn earlier, that's going to mean that you're going to be further away. Now on to the last reference. Let's see what happens when I straighten up too early. And straightening up, I'm going to raise my left mirror because I do not like it lowered. There it is. Into reverse, checking, waiting for the first reference, and it is nearly there. It's there, and steer left, going back, looking for the next reference, which is the angle. There it is. There is a pedestrian, so I'm going to wait. If there's any pedestrians in the road, on the pavement, sorry, if there's any pedestrians on the pavement, do not keep moving. And he's gone. I'm going to continue. And triangle is just starting to disappear, so I'm gonna steer. And now I'm gonna straighten up a bit too early, so when I feel like I'm in, but I'm not quite, let's say I thought, yeah, I'm straight now, I can see the curb, and I straightened up. So now I'm parked like that, so I'm slightly sticking out with my front, but my back is closer. Into reverse, checking. First reference is there, so I'm going to steer. Second reference is there, so I'm going to steer. I'm squeezing the clutch down to go slower. Third reference is there, so I'm going to steer. But this time round, I'm going to allow the car to continue going out with that last reference. Now, I've brought the car quite close to the pavement, so I'll be able to see it when it's straight. So it's straight there, but I'm not going to steer. I'm going to do it later. Now the back's starting to go out, and I've straightened up. So now I've parked like this. So the front of the car is closer to the pavement and the back is further out. Oh, and earlier I forgot to mention, with your seating position, to do the maneuvers, it might be easier if you're sitting slightly sort of tilted towards the passenger. That way you're able to look out the rear window and the left-hand side of your car a lot more easily. But what that will do is you will be slightly further away from the clutch when you do this, because you're now having to stretch. So to compensate for that, you can move your seat slightly closer because you've twisted backwards. And looking over towards the right is a little bit more challenging, so you might need to do this, sit back, then look, then get back. Hope that makes sense. So now I'm going to try and park between two cars. Remember, on your driving test, they're not going to ask you to do this, and if they do, you will have at least 2 car lengths in which you can complete this maneuver. So I'm going to park with that blue car just up there in between these two. Brake, clutch down, looking behind. As soon as I've stopped, reverse gear. Check right, check all around, looking into that tiny window, reversing back. I'm going to steer left now as soon as the car's brake lights are visible. And I'm going into the road, looking for a nice 45 again. So out there, and then steer, checking, looking in that little mirror, the triangle's nearly gone, and I'm going to steer about there. Now I have parked quite close to this car, but that's because I'm trying to make that 1 car space. And as I'm going into the space, just checking all around, keeping an eye on the car behind. But I'm not focused on the car behind, I'm focused on the curb and the car I'm parking with. And as I get to here, I can see the car, that's good. I'm going to straighten up, and I've parked. But remember, you're not going to be parking between 2 cars like this. This is just to demonstrate that these references work. Also, when the car's facing the other way, it's a bit harder to see the end of the car. Just imagine the car is a big rectangular block. So I'm going to go back when I think that the bonnet has disappeared. So check, reversing back. Bonnet should be gone by about there. Look right, steer left. Going into the space, looking for 45 again, about there, steer, watch the curb, it's basically gone. I'm going to steer a bit earlier, just in case, because I don't want to go up onto that curb, so I'm steering a bit more. And then I can see it's coming back into view, and I'm straightening up. I'm a little bit wide at this point, but this would still be okay in your driving test. You're not going to get a fail for that. So now I'm going to do this exercise where the curb is lowered and it's a bit harder to see the pavement. So this parked car on the left, there's a driveway. The challenge here is, because of that driveway, you're not going to feel when you're starting to go over onto the curb. So I'm going to check, looking out the back, go back as the car disappears. Yep, it is now gone. Look over, steer left. Look for my 45. There it is, yep, checking. Going near the curb, sit a bit taller. I can still see where the pavement would be, so I'm going to go for my normal reference. It's gone. Now steer. And keep watching that left mirror. You'll see I'm leaning across to the left more. It's because I want to really see that back tyre. As I get to here, yep, there we go. And we're in. So if you're starting this maneuver and there are parked cars opposite, be mindful with your position. You don't want to start in the center of the road, because when you steer left, the front of your car is going to swing out too far over towards the right, where you might actually collide and hit a car on the opposite side of the road. So you want to start closer to the car that you're actually parking with. So I'm going to use this blue car here to practice, and there are parked cars on the right. So I've put my clutch down. I'm going to start closer to this blue car. So I'm watching my left-hand side to watch that car. And into reverse gear. So I'm purposely closer towards the left. So into reverse, checking all around, reversing back. I'm going to reverse back a bit more because the car's facing the other way. So it looks like the bonnet's starting to go, but I'm going to look, guesstimate the length of the car and then check and steer left. And I can still see the car in the mirror, so I know I'm close, but I'm not gonna hit it. I'm not worried about that front now because I started on the left. That's about 45. Steer, checking the right, checking the left. Curb is just disappearing. Steer, looking all around. As I'm getting into space, I'm braking a little and straightening up, and I've parked. So this maneuver, like any maneuver, requires really tight clutch control, because if you're moving much slower with your feet, you'll have more time to look around, more time to steer. Clutch control is really the key here. So that is it for today's video, guys. If you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to press that like button. Let me know down in the comments what you enjoyed about today's video. And if you even learned a thing or two, let me know down there. Subscribe if you're new and select the bell icon so that you get a notification every time that I'm uploading. And that's it from me today, guys. And thank you so much for watching and for all your support. Much love.